Hello computer gamers, this is iAndrew. Today, this is episode 19, and I'll be discussing Master Yi and Shyvana for this episode of From Dota to League. Now, before we get into Master Yi and Shyvana, I wanted to talk a little bit about a previous episode, number 17. I was a bit inaccurate on a couple of things I said for sure that I just wanted to go over and clarify. So when I was talking about Ardent Sensor, I accidentally said that the item doesn't give any movement speed, but it actually does. So there's that. So I mean, I don't really see a reason not to buy it on her. It's just incredibly strong for her because of what her shield does and all that. And another thing, I think I was trying to figure out what else the ability was like. It is actually like a Photic Shield from Dota, you know, that Lord of Vernus or Abaddon has. This guy, the shield actually doesn't deal damage. It can get wasted if, you know, it explodes and there's no enemy units nearby, right? So Janna, you know, obviously the damage on her shield can get wasted if the person shielded does not attack any enemy units. So in that regard, it is somewhat similar to a Photic Shield. Of course, the mechanics are different, but there's still the concept of, you know, the damage part can get wasted. So something to watch out for sure. Anyways, moving on. So let's talk about Master Yi. Now keep in mind that I'm not good at Master Yi, and maybe I never will be, but I'm still gonna talk about him anyway. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Okay. So I unlocked him a while ago. You know, I thought, you know, he might be kind of nice because, well, his first skill allows him to critical strike, which is quite an interesting concept. But, you know, he also benefits from attack speed. So when it comes to the choice, you know, do I get attack speed or critical strike damage increase on Master Yi? Well, it's hard to figure out because, you know, you only have reds for one of them, right? Or quints for one of them. I mean, technically you could throw both of them in there, but would that be all that effective? Maybe. We'll have to experiment. And then of course there's item builds too, you know. Like, I guess maybe if you get attack speed runes and you want to get critical strike items, or you want to get critical strike items and you get attack speed runes, I don't know. I mean, items, I'm not sure what I'm saying. But he's complicated and he's hard to figure out. But okay, he's actually somewhat similar to Shyvana. They both have this mechanic where attack speed does help them. Now, for him, it comes in that every few strikes he can strike twice, which is curious because it means he actually even scales really well with attack damage. So not necessarily attack speed or crits, although obviously attack speed still helps with that. So the bottom line that we could come up with so far is that he scales very well with attack damage, crits, and attack speed. So you're going to build all three of those things. So the problem that I run into when I play Master Yi is that doesn't leave much room for defense. You're going to build all this offense on him, and then without all this defense, I guess the trouble that I run into when I play him is that I'm such an aggressive player, and, you know, pouring all this effort into making my character stronger offensively kind of comes to be a problem for me. And maybe it's just that I have difficulty itemizing properly, and that may be a problem, but I think it might not just be that but I think I don't know what my deal is, but I can't play this character properly ever. So anyways, everybody's always telling me he's easy. Well, he's not easy. I can't wrap my mind around him. People also complain about Vagar's nerfs, which are like not even nerfs, they're complete buffs, and it's insane how good he is. And I bought him only after the newest patch for Vagar's changes. So it's pretty funny how my mind does not work the same way other people's do. Anyways, so his first ability is arguably one of his best abilities, if not his best one. His first ability makes him invulnerable, basically like an Omni Slash, or, well, it's more similar to Ember Spirit's Sleight of Fist. Which is funny because I feel like I've talked about Master Yi before, but I'm looking at my notes, I didn't write it down, so who knows, maybe I did talk about him, but I just didn't talk about him very much, and I just missed the fact that I did. But, I don't have it in my notes, so we're talking about him in this episode. Now, maybe there's another champion that has an ability like Sleight of Fist, who knows? Or, maybe I was going to talk about him in the first episode and just forgot to, who knows? But anyways, this is an ability that, will actually relocate him to basically where he's jumping to, unlike Sleight of Fist from Ember Spirit from Dota 2. So this means you do have to be careful about where you jump to, in other words. So, which units you're attacking. Actually, one thing that's a little bit awkward about it, I believe, is I think you jump to the first unit that you're alpha striking rather than the last one, which I think does not make a whole lot of sense. I feel like I want to go balls deep. Like, either make it like Sleight of Fist where I return to where I jumped from, or make me go the distance. Like, if I jump and hit, a bunch of units in a big old area, of course, I believe the way it works is you hit the ones that are closest to you first, then you go out to the ones farthest away until the range is gone, that's as far as you're jumping. You go back to where the first unit that you jumped to, I think, which doesn't make sense to me. I think you should go all the way to the end. I think Master Yi would be a better champion if this were the case. I think a lot of players would have trouble with the extra risk involved, but as for me, I would feel more comfortable playing the champion just because I would know what to expect, and it would make more sense. It would allow me to be even more offensive, and it would remind me more of, like the champion Abaddon. He kind of goes balls deep, I guess you could say. He's very aggressive. He's like the king of tower diving. Like, I kind of want Master Yi to be at that point where, you could say he's really great at diving. Not necessarily dunking, like people like to talk about in League of Legends, like Darius is a great dunker. I'm not entirely convinced that Master Yi needs to be a great dunker, but, he should be able to be a great chaser, honestly. And I think tweaking that first ability might be something that needs to happen, but whatever. So it would add to his risk, but it would also make him flow a little bit better. Champion just style would just be a little bit more intuitive, and that would just help a lot. So let's actually go into what his ultimate does, because it synergizes so well with his basic ability and his first one. How is that? So his it gives him increased attack speed and movement speed, and it also makes him immune to slowing effects, which, if a spell does damage and slows, it will avoid him being damaged, so that's excellent. It also wastes the spell, so for example, if Shaco throws his Shiv that slows and damages at Master Yi, then that Shiv will go into cooldown, and that sucks for Shaco, and it doesn't even damage Master Yi, so that's pretty awesome. mechanic. It might be overpowered, honestly, but whatever. Um, so it can definitely help to know, which champions have slows, because you will have an advantage against them. And Singed is one of them, so that's why we show Singed in this video. So Master Yi, I guess if you think about it, he might be considered a counter pick. If the opponents have a lot of slows on their team, or even just one or two that could be problematic for your team, you can just counter pick them, and then you could just kind of focus on killing those guys, maybe because they won't be able to do much to you in theory. So yeah, keep that in mind. As much as I maybe suck with him, maybe a lot of it just comes down to maybe I've been playing him too much in Team Builder, not enough in Draft, perhaps, or something like that. And well, actually, sometimes when you end up playing a champion in Team Builder, you might not be able to adjust to having noob allies in your team or something like that, because maybe it requires teamwork or something. That might be the case with Master Yi. Like, I might go in and try to team fight, and then all of a sudden I'm 1 versus 5 just because I'm a little bit faster than my allies, and then they just be like, well, let's just let him feed, why not, right? We could go in and help him while he's invulnerable, we could go in there, but why should we, we already have too much experience dying too much. We don't want to die again and look like noobs. Let's just make him look like the noob and let him die. That's what a lot of newbies, that's what goes through their minds, and it's really frustrating. But if you are a champion that is not going balls deep and has lots of, like, I guess, disengagement options, like a Nidalee or Vayne, for example, you could see how it's a lot easier to adjust to having bad allies. Even with that said, I've still sucked with Nidalee. Like, I played Vayne this week, and I don't know, maybe I played her before in Team Builder, but maybe I didn't. Either way, like, my lane partner didn't have any runes, but yeah, I only ended up dying once, and my lane partner actually didn't die at all. The only time I died was actually when the Master Yi ended up ganking me from the jungle. But my point is I did fairly well after that point. She finally got her first mana item. Before that, she'd actually bought a sight stone, which didn't really help with the gank. But once she got her mana rolling, then I was pretty much good to go. I had the support that I needed, and I was able to get 7 kills straight in a row and make the enemy rage quit. Although that wasn't all me. I think our solo mid or solo top, whoever it was, the Lissandra, was kind of carrying us pretty hard as well. Much harder than I was, certainly. Anyway, she actually died a couple of times, but she got, like, I don't know, 15 plus kills, I want to say, something like that. I think it might have been as much as 19. I'm not sure. Maybe it was only 12. But she got a lot of assists, though, for crying out loud. I'm pretty sure the assist count was exactly 14. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe there's really high numbers. Both of them over 10. That's for sure. And yeah, so she was just wrecking them. And so yeah, it was an alright game. But it was kind of a stomp. And my point is, people have stories about them doing this kind of thing with Master Yi, but I haven't done it, so I don't know what my problem is. But I'll figure it out eventually, I suppose. Now, his second ability, I know how it works. I mean, I've been watching Master Yi's play, so maybe one thing I need to do is just analyze their mastery pages, rune pages, or item builds a little bit better, especially when they're successful Master Yi's. I mean, if their Master Yi's like that one in that last game that failed, then I guess I don't need to examine them too closely. But no, I actually haven't been seeing it hardly, if any, successful Master Yi's, so I'm not really sure what to be looking for, to be honest. But if I do find any, then I'll be sure to see what's worked for them. But anyway, one thing I noticed is that his second ability does scale with ability power, and since it does raise his armor and magic resist, I believe, while he's doing this, that that's a way for him to not take as much damage while he's healing. And this allows him to stall while he's waiting for the cooldowns on his other abilities, especially the cooldown on his first ability. But ideally what you want to be doing, since the first ability has this passive where its cooldown gets reduced by your basic attacks, it makes sense to be attacking so you can alpha strike again, and attacking so you can alpha strike again. So I could imagine that it's probably a very viable thing to just build lots of attack speed on Master Yi. So because of that, I would say that he's probably a good choice to build Static Shiv on, even though it doesn't give any raw attack damage. With that said, I still think it's probably superior to get that purple armor penetration plus 20 item. That's probably the best item for him actually, because it gives him critical strike and give him attack speed when you activate it, and of course gives him attack damage. Gives him all the three main offensive items that he really wants. So actually I wonder if it might be viable to just buy like 2 or 3 of those. Probably not, but whatever. Moving on. So his meditate actually is probably what really makes him a great jungler, I guess, in a lot of people's minds, because you just heal him up like all the time, you know, between camps or whatever, or even during a camp, I guess, if you're having trouble clearing it. But and that's pretty nice, because normally the monsters will start healing if you've stopped attacking them. But in this case, I guess they're still kind of attacking you, even if they're not doing much of any damage. So they will not regenerate while you're meditating, as long as you didn't like walk away from them. So keep that in mind. It's pretty darn useful for the jungling aspect. I do want to say, I wonder if that might be overpowered in the case of monsters. Like maybe if you're just standing around, maybe they should heal up. I don't know. I don't work at Riot, so it's not really any of my business, I guess. So whatever. Moving on. So Uju style. Now this is an ability I probably don't fully understand. I probably understand it better than before, but probably only because I played him again pretty recently. So this increases his attack damage by a certain amount. I'm not sure if it actually scales with your attack damage. I believe it does, but I think the scaling ratio is pretty low compared to like Alpha Strike. Now this is an ability that has a passive and an active. I believe how it works is the active itself gives true damage on basic attacks, which I believe it's like, it might be a flat amount, which may scale with the attack damage. I'm not sure. Actually, I think this ability scales off bonus attack damage rather than basic plus bonus. So that might be part of what limits this ability's effectiveness. So as you buy attack speed and critical strikes, you know, this ability might not be benefiting at all in scaling, other than just leveling it up. So keep that in mind, that even if it does benefit from your base attack damage, the numbers are going to be really small. Anyways, I think what may help me is to try maxing this first, but I don't really know for sure. Anyways, I haven't tried doing it lately. Now, one thing that's great about this ability is it goes well with attack speed. So if you can buy some attack speed early, you'll keep in mind that this ability is a bit like Shaco Shiv, because the passive is disabled while the ability is on cooldown. Although this, it waits until I think the duration's over, and then it's disabled. So slightly different from the Shiv. Shiv, it's immediately, the passive's disabled once you use it. But anyways, As for Wuju style, like, it has a certain duration, of course. It only lasts for a certain, however many seconds, and then the bonus damage is gone, and then your passive bonus damage, which has no true damage, it's also gone, until the ability is ready again. Which means you want to get as many attacks in as you possibly can to get as much true damage in as you can. So it's probably the best reason to get attack speed. And one thing to think about is, I guess there isn't anything else to think about. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking things. But yeah, that's Master Yi. So I guess I need more practice with him. Whatever. I don't know. Maybe I should just stop playing him altogether. So what about Shyvana? We can go over her. I've had considerably more success with her. I enjoy her a lot more. In fact, of all the morphine champions, I've had the most success with her. I think a big reason for that is when she does morph, she doesn't really have any disadvantages. Like every ability, it all gets improved, and the mechanic for morphing to her better form, I like it. It works out well for me. It kind of reminds me of limit breaks from the Final Fantasy games. So how does it work exactly? Well, we'll get into that. That's the final ability. Let's look at the basic one first. So the basic ability, she just gets armor and magic resistance. It's a bonus, and the bonus is doubled when she's in her dragon form. So, this scales with her level. I'm not sure what the final values are, but I think they're around maybe 20 or something, and then so 40 in the dragon form. So not too shabby. Nothing, absolutely incredible or whatever, but it's nice to have. I think, like, Graves' ability might be a little bit more impressive, but one nice thing about her is it's available all the time instead of having to wait for battle to be raging on and on and on. Although, yeah, it doesn't take very long for Graves, basic to get maxed out, but, I mean, in a fight. But it does require for the fight to, last more than a couple seconds, obviously. So whatever. Moving on. So Shyvana, she's reliably tanky, I guess you could say, and health items are pretty darn good on her. How's her first ability? Her first ability really encourages her to build a lot of attack speed, and so does her ultimate too, but we'll get to that later. So every time she attacks, it reduces the cooldown of her Twin Bite. Now her Twin Bite is actually somewhat similar to Master Yi's basic because it's basically 2 attacks. And so there isn't much else to say about it. You can reduce the cooldown as you attack, and it's an extra attack, so that's great. Now, when she is in her dragon form, it's basically the same thing, only she is going to attack all the units in front of her. So that's pretty strong. You can attack a group of units with it instead of just one, and you'll be attacking them twice, I do believe, so that is great. Lots of damage. So then her second ability, I've been maxing this first lately, and I've found the most success with that. It does not scale particularly well with your attack damage, but its duration is relatively long, the cooldown is quite reasonable, and it just increases her movement speed a lot, which I do believe scales with the level, so it's nice for chasing and just moving around. And even I've been playing her as a jungler, but I'm sure she's quite viable in top lane as well, and she might even be nice for mid lane, who knows, maybe not, but whatever. So her second ability, Burnout, it is nice because you can actually make it last longer if you're attacking more, because as it says in this description, basic attacks extend the duration of the burnout. So that may be part of why I say, the cooldown is pretty reasonable. Now, one thing that makes this ability even more fun is if you're in dragon form, it will leave a path of fire wherever you walk, like Firefly from Dota. So, the Bat Rider, he takes to the skies and leaves a trail of fire. Well, she kind of does this while she's in dragon form, although she's not necessarily flying around. She's her flames are just that much more. They're just that much stronger, and that they stay on the ground longer, basically, even as you walk away. That's the point. So it's nice because people it's going to be harder for them to get away from you. It mostly helps you if you need to run away, I should say. There isn't really a whole lot of offensive application of this ability, but just having that extra kind of like a bit of shielding is pretty helpful, which obviously is more effective when you're in your ultimate form. So pretty nice stuff. There isn't much else to say about it, to be honest. Oh, one thing to keep in mind is that although the first ability is physical damage, both the first and second abilities scale off of your attack damage. The second ability is dealing magic damage. So that's pretty effective because you can be building attack damage and actually be dealing magic damage to your opponents as you're maxing this out first. And that might throw some new players for a loop because they might think, oh, if I build armor, that'll reduce the damage the flames deal to me. No, it doesn't work that way, unfortunately for them, but fortunately for you. So interactions like this, if people aren't familiar with the champion, can really mess them up. So that's another pretty good reason to max it out first, I suppose. Anyways, moving on. So, Flame Breath. Now this is scaling with ability power, dealing more damage if you level it up, and it also does magic damage, and then it has a passive part too, so it debuffs the units that it hits with the flame. So of course it's like a line, like a fireball from old Warcraft 2, and that's pretty reasonable. Or you could think of it like Shockwave from Warcraft 3, or the Lion's Impale from Dota 2, but without the stun. So instead it just debuffs the units. And how the debuff works is she can attack units that have these flames on them, and each time she attacks them, a percentage of their maximum health is dealt as magic damage on hit, which is really strong, and it actually lasts for 4 seconds. So honestly, this is her strongest ability offensively. Especially being considered Twin Bite, she's able to chomp twice, dealing that maximum health. So this is, just keep in mind, actually magic damage is she brings a lot of that to the table. I mean, between the second and third abilities. So if somebody picked Shyvana and you didn't get her, yeah, keep that in mind. Magic resist will go a long ways against her, especially if you've got a lot of health. If you don't have very much health and you rely a lot on lifesteal, maybe this ability isn't so scary, but otherwise it's probably going to be. So keep that in mind. And one thing that's pretty nice about this ability, if you are in your dragon form, it will hit in a cone. So it'll hit more units, and it's pretty fun. I think the range actually might be a little shorter in the dragon form, perhaps. I'm not sure. Maybe this is zoomed in too much. Well, anyway, it's a really nice ability. It just kind of rounds her out very well and just makes her pretty darn flexible, I should say. And so moving on, her ultimate also has initial damage, and it scales with ability power, dealing the magic damage once again. I think Now, how this works is she does like a glide or a jump or something, and so she travels to a location, and she's able to carry enemy units, champions, whatever, I guess, with her, kind of like Magnus Skewer from Dota. So it's kind of like that, but she does it while she's transforming, so that's interesting. You could probably just select your own location, you wouldn't really do any traveling, but why waste the damage, right? Why not just jump into some guys? I'm not very good at using this ability yet. Maybe I never will be, who knows, but it's not really a totally essential part of her, although it's pretty obvious, and it's simple to be able to escape with her using this. If you need to, you can jump over some terrain pretty easily. It's not that hard at all, because the range is pretty nice on it. Now, this does have a passive, so you don't actually have your second resource, your Fury, until you get to the level 6, and by then you'll probably actually start with 100 out of 100. So it's always at 100, I mean maximum, but then once you use your ultimate, then your Fury, you'll start to use it up. But I do believe you can slow down your losing your Fury by attacking more and more. The only problem is, if you're the dragon, you're probably doing even more damage than you were doing before, so you might be killing stuff, and there might not be a whole lot around for you to attack. So you probably eventually go back to your original form anyway. But it's still nice, because if you are dealing with some tough opponents, and maybe the fight's taking a while, then you will stay in your dragon form for a while. I just want to say, you definitely want to be getting some lifesteal on her, or at least some spell vamp, I guess, if you're going the AP route for whatever reason. I don't know. I haven't really tried that, at least not lately. But she does have lots of sustainability with this form, of course, because of all that extra defense from her basic. And I can just imagine if she did have some spell vamp, with all the magic damage she's doing, especially from her flame breath and all that, yeah, she might be really hard to take down. But what I've been building lately, and of course I'm probably going to end up tweaking it, is I've actually been getting the Zeke's Herald. And if you think about it, it's a really cost-efficient damage item, because the total damage that it offers to the team is about 100 damage, although it only gives you 20 of that. So that's really effective, and of course the total lifesteal that it gives is 50% lifesteal, spread across 5 champions, of course. So I really think it's an extremely valuable item, but I tend not to buy it a lot of the time, because I tend to use a lot of CDR in my runes and masteries and so on. But as for her, I don't use any of that, so I just have the 20% here, and then 10 from Zephyr and 10 from the Warrior. So I might, change up these 2 items. I might get like some Spell Vamp or something, I'm not sure. But so far, the build's working pretty good, and I've really been enjoying her as a champion. And yeah, so I picked her up, and I think next I'm gonna save up for Kha'Zix, because I feel like in solo queue he's just gonna be like practically free elo, I guess you could say, free LP champion, because of like his map hack, I guess you could say. So that's really nice, at least in the lower ranks. Until I get into the higher ranks, I think he's gonna be really easy to win with in ranked games, I would imagine. Well, that's all I want to talk about for today, so tune in for next time. Catch you guys later.